studies again. And since the last study we did on the 1335 days, which outlined the certain years it would apply, the 1335, there's a correction to be made. I made it online, but I didn't. This is the second time I've studied or posted a study on this. So the correction is 2016 to 2020 is still a yes year. 2020 being the ending of the 1335 days. I had the month listed wrong. The video shows 10/3/2016, which is correct, to 9/29/2020, which is incorrect. It should read 5/29, because Pentecost always falls in the 5th or the 6th month. It doesn't fall in the 9th month. So that was a typo, and I corrected it, like I say, in the comment section. So I like to talk about tonight where we are. There's a huge earthquake in Anchorage today, 7.2. And you see the language in the Bible talking about the day of the Lord, and the earthquake mentioned in that context, how he shakes the earth, spiritual or literal. It's going to be an incredible time. God's going to reverse things. You can count on that. Absolutely count on that. So where are we? The 1335, the ever important timeline. Now, in the last study, we showed how the original fulfillment of 1335 was from the time John baptized Christ at trumpets 29 AD to Pentecost 33 AD. Now, when reviewing Mr. Camping's work on this, by the way, who still to this day is under attack. It just blows my mind that people would attack somebody who's passed on already. But that's the way people are. I began wondering what other years would qualify for 1335 days, since the original pattern was the time that John baptized Christ until the cross, and then finally until we reached the 1335th day at Pentecost in 33 AD. And that was a fascinating study. I mean, it gives us a very good focus on which years we should be focusing on. Now, 2019, don't think it's going to happen then, but we could be in the midst of the 1335 days, or the 1290 ending in 1335. So that's a possibility. But as far as it ending in 2019, I don't see that, according to what we listed in the last study. 1335 and 1290, when I first read about that in the book of Daniel, and I was looking at that language, I was thinking, what a random number. I mean, that really seems like an odd, random number to say, blessed is he who waits and comes to the 1335. Why 1335? And it wasn't until we continue to study and study, and we notice that God uses patterns in the Bible to establish His truth. It has everything to do with His feast days and His feast celebrations, because when Christ was announced at trumpets and in 29 AD by John, and then we went to time 33.5 year period there where Christ's ministry was, and Satan was very active during that time, highly active. He attempted to destroy the head of the church, who is Christ, and the believers too. There was a period of time that he was waging war on the believers, and that's precisely what's going to happen in this period of time. There's going to be a waging of war against the saints, and Satan is also going to try to attack the Holy Covenant, which is God's salvation plan. And that's happening as teachers are still teaching no more salvation. And you would think more people would be speaking out against that, but that's just the way it is right now. I've turned blue in the face trying to post study after study showing that no, God's salvation is not done yet. This would mean, that Daniel, as well as all believers throughout time, would inherit the promises of God when he was told to go his way. And at the end of the days, he will stand in his lot. He will stand in his inheritance. He will be resurrected. So we know that when Daniel was told that, and we also know that the 1335 relates to what Daniel was asking about, we can know that that's just the final period of time in which, well, it's a prelude to the coming of Christ on the last day. It's a prelude to, I believe, the day of the Lord. And it's a prelude to, it could be a prelude to when God reverses things. And then there's a period of time in which we're going to see the short work of God. And he produces a short work. But it is a prelude to the coming of Christ. It's just there seems to be a period of time in between that. Before Daniel stands to inherit what God has promised all believers. So I wanted to further review this topic as we continue to ask God for wisdom and understanding. And first, I want to comment on this because this is pretty amazing. The world is not watching. Okay, we can accept that because they weren't watching in the days of Noah, and it's actually become, and I've seen this time and time again. Bringing the word of God and proclaiming that Christ is coming on the last day in power and great glory is tormenting to people. It is a torment. And, from the believer's perspective, we look at it as, oh, Christ is coming. The Prince of Peace. This is going to be a beautiful world, so on and so on, when he recreates the new heavens and new earth. The world doesn't look at it that way. They think this earth is theirs, and they try to summons the powers to do evil things, and it's just amazing what's going on right now. But we can rest assured that God is going to reverse things. There is going to come a time when the nations will know the power of God. So I heard one pastor just recently, and I put this down here because I wanted to bring it up, where he was talking about, well done, thou good and faithful servant. Now he went out of his way to turn a good teaching into there is no mention of time at all in these passages. He was trying to prove that we can't know the day or the hour, because when it talks about the verses of well done, thou good and faithful servant, there's no mention of time. And that logic just blew my mind, because it was like, what are you talking about? There are other passages that do talk about the time. This is Mark 13:34. For the Son of Man is as a man taking a far journey, who left his house and gave authority to his servants, and to every man his work, and commanded the porter to watch. Watch ye therefore, for ye know not when the master of the house cometh, at even, or at midnight, or at the cock crowing, or in the morning, lest coming suddenly he find you sleeping. And what I say unto all, Mark 13:37. And what I say unto you, I say unto all, watch. Now, of course, of ourselves, we can't know the day or the hour. Without God's Spirit and studying His Word and Him revealing more and more, we can't know that. There's no way. But there are certain things that God has placed in the Bible, like 1335. I mean, why would He even mention that if we're not supposed to know about that time frame? So, and it does include His feast days, His feast celebrations leading up to the Feast of Weeks or Pentecost. And so we know that a great harvest is coming too. A great time of salvation is coming. Now here's a quick note on no man knows the day or the hour. I've posted studies on this, so you can go back and look at some of the videos on that. But the main emphasis is, of that day and hour, yet knoweth no man. That's what the ISA says. There's almost like when Christ told the disciples, it is not for you to know the times and seasons. And they were asking Him, are you going to restore the kingdom the believers, or to Israel at this time. And Christ said, it's not for you to know the times or the seasons. Then we read later that, brethren, you are not in darkness, that day shall overtake you as a thief. So he's saying that those times and seasons will be known by the believers at the end, but it wasn't for the disciples to know. That's one point on this. And pastors, man, they lock into this verse. At least most of them do. The day and hour, you cannot know it. Let's not look at any information concerning the coming of Christ, because we can't know the day or the hour. And I wanted to read the ISA just one more time. About yet the day, or that day, and the hour, not yet one has perceived, not yet the messengers in the heaven, not yet the Son, if not, I think it should be, if you're going to understand this right, if not for the Father revealing it, but it says, not yet the Son, if not the Father. Be ye looking, be ye being vigilant, and be ye praying, for not have ye received when the season is. See, that season is important. And when it says, brethren, of the times and seasons you have no need that I write unto you, he's addressing the believers at the end, because the believers at the end are not drunken in the night. They are children of the day. They are watching, they are learning, and they are praying for God to reveal when Christ is coming. And I think this last study of the 1335 is just a great map of where we are at this time, and anticipating how certain years end in 1335 days when other years do not. So we can eliminate certain years, in other words. This is Matthew 24:33. So likewise ye, when ye shall see all these things, know that it is near, even at the doors. Verily I say unto you, this generation shall not pass till all these things be fulfilled. Heaven and earth shall pass away, but my words shall not pass away. But of that day and hour knoweth no man. Actually, man is italicized. It says knoweth no, not the angels of heaven, but my Father only. But as the days of Noah were, so shall also the coming of the Son of Man be. For as in the days that were before the flood, they were eating and drinking, marrying and giving in marriage, until the day that Noah entered into the ark, and knew not until the flood came and took them all away, so shall also the coming of the Son of Man be. Then two shall be in the field, the one shall be taken and the other left. Two shall be grinding at the mill, the one shall be taken and the other left. Watch therefore, for ye know not what hour your Lord doth come. But know this, that if the goodman of the house had known in what watch the thief would come, he would have watched, and would have not have suffered his house to be broken up. Therefore be ye also ready, for in such an hour as ye think not, the Son of Man cometh. Who then is the faithful and wise servant, whom his Lord hath made ruler over his household, to give them meat in due season? Blessed is that servant, whom his Lord, when he cometh, shall find so doing. Verily I say unto you, that he shall make him ruler over all his goods. And if that evil servant shall say in his heart, my Lord delayeth his coming, and shall begin to smite his fellow servants to eat and drink with the drunken, the Lord of that servant shall come in a day when he looketh not for him, and in an hour that he is not aware of. Now we have this whole idea here, the day and the hour being mentioned, those who eat and drink with the drunken. They're oblivious to what's going on in the Bible and studying the Bible. They don't know the timeline. They don't know nothing about it. They're eating and drinking, and they're called the evil servant. And he shall cut him asunder and appoint him his portion with the hypocrites. There shall be weeping and gnashing of teeth. The admonishment concerning the hour is directed at the evil servant who claims, my Lord delays his coming. And those people of the world who in Noah's time were busy marrying, eating and drinking, and knew not until the flood came. But Noah and his family did know. They knew. So the believers at the end will know as we approach these certain years coming up here, what the time frame. We're in that timeline, but what's the evidence? That's the key. I believe that's the key. The attack on the believers, Satan wages war on the saints, and the attack of the believers will be evidence. I believe that. And of course, Satan uses other people to do that. He doesn't, he doesn't stand behind a post and wait for you to come out of the house or anything and do it that way. He doesn't attack you that way, but he uses other people. And other people who have an evil heart, they will do what they do during this period of time until blesses he who waits and comes to the 1335. Now, then God reverses things. Then salvation just springs forth in a grand way. And whether that is the start of the day of the Lord and it goes simultaneous with salvation, I don't know. But the language of the day of the Lord is such that the day of the Lord is upon the heathen. As you have done, the same shall be done to you. That's the message there concerning the day of the Lord. That's only one of many passages that talk about that. So the timeline we're at right now is that Satan wages war on the Holy Covenant. Teachers of no more salvation arise and have since 2011. Satan wages war against God's people. He does it through the evil of other people. Satan is removed, and it's, what is it called? He shall wear down the saints of the Most High. A wearing down process where, we've all experienced that in the world. When people, you bring the gospel and you get emails and you get discussions going on, and there's a real hatred. Like I say, it's tormenting. It is absolutely tormenting, like gasoline on fire tormenting, when you present the Word of God to people. And you talk about the God's going to end this world and recreate a new heaven and a new earth. They don't want to hear that. It is like gasoline on fire, and it's an explosion that happens, and then you realize, okay, you don't want to hear it. On to the next person, and you do this, as much as you can, talk to people, because there are people who are receptive, and there are people who are actually watching. So after Satan wages war against God's people, Satan is removed into a land barren and desolate. God is then magnified. That's found in Joel 2. Through this magnification of God, he procures for his people great things and removes their shame. Now, besides the book of Joel, the rain blessing also seems to come from Ezekiel 35. I didn't list Joel 2, but we've read that quite a number of times. I can post one of the verses up where God says, "Fear not, O land, for he will do great things." Ezekiel 34:25. "And I will make with them a covenant of peace, and I will cause the evil beasts to cease out of the land, and they shall dwell safely in the wilderness and sleep in the woods. And I will make them and the places round about my hill a blessing. and I will cause the shower to come down in his season. There shall be showers of blessing. And the tree of the field shall yield her fruit, and the earth shall yield her increase, and they shall be safe in their land, and shall know that I am the Lord, when I have broken the bands of their yoke, and delivered them out of the hands of those that serve them of them. And they shall no more be a prey to the heathen, neither shall the beasts of the land devour them, but they shall dwell safely, and none shall make them afraid. Ezekiel 34:29, and I will raise up for them a plant of renown, and they shall be no more consumed with hunger in the land, neither bear the shame of the heathen any more. Thus shall they know that I, the Lord, thus shall they know that I, the Lord, their God, am with them, and that they, even the house of Israel, are my people, saith the Lord God. And ye my flock, the flock of my pasture, are men, and I am your God, saith the Lord God. Now the shower comes in his season. Everything's done just in a precise manner, as we've seen with the 1335, from season to season, from trumpets to Pentecost. God's feast celebrations, his seasons are so significant, not only at the time of Christ coming in 7 BC onward to 33 AD, but right at the end, because some of these verses that talk about what appears to be at the time of Christ also shifts gears right into the end of time. So we know there's a duplication that's going to go on. Now the shower comes in his season. The season of weeks, or Pentecost, is mentioned in this verse. I still have like 20 minutes. I only have so much time on this card. Jeremiah 5:24. Neither shall they say in their heart, let us now fear the Lord our God, that giveth rain, both the former and latter rain, in his season. He reserveth unto us the appointed weeks of harvest. So we know that the latter rain is very well related to Pentecost. We know that. And that's going to be at the end of the 1335. Or when we arrive at 1335. And I'll list the years at the end of this study, because I want to make that correction again to make sure it's understood what the correction was. We know from the end of the 3.5-year period of Jesus' ministry, the Feast of Weeks, or Pentecost, was in view. Again, trumpets to Pentecost, and the years which show 1335 days are very important for God's reversal, just as it was in 33 AD. Number 5, the pastors in the churches will stick with no man knows the day or the hour. And that's actually not how it's even quoted, but that's what you hear a lot of times. This fits a pattern of Judah first and Jerusalem. So Judah first, then Jerusalem, so that Jerusalem will not be prideful. In other words, I was trying to get that out. Zechariah 12:7. The Lord also has saved the tents of Judah first, that the glory of the house of David and the glory of the inhabitants of Jerusalem do not magnify themselves against Judah. In that day shall the Lord defend the inhabitants of Jerusalem, and he that is feeble among them in that day shall be as David, and the house of David shall be as God, as the angel of the Lord before them. And it shall come to pass in that day that I will seek to destroy all the nations that come against Jerusalem. Now we have this attack against the believers during this period of 1290 and 1335. Much like Satan attacked Christ during his 3.5-year ministry. So we have this, but then God says, I will seek to destroy all the nations that come against us. And whether that's referring to the believers worldwide, or whether it's referring to the Jerusalem of the churches worldwide, it could go either way on that. So we should have a waging of war against the believers being evident to know and understand that we are in the 1290/1335 day period. We now know the years. The years of possibility which fulfill the pattern of 33 AD and the 1335 days, from trumpets when Christ was announced by John to Pentecost when God was saving a great many back in 33 AD. Okay, so I'm going to list these years again, and hopefully these dates are right. I went over them, and it's like you can miss one digit or type it wrong. 2014 to 2018. Now that was curious, because when I wrote the book 7 Years to a Better Tomorrow, I saw 1334 days there, and I was thinking, okay, well, maybe it's the next day, and there's 1335 days. But nope, it didn't qualify. We look back and say that was not a qualifier, because from 9/25 2014 to 5/20 2018, it was only 1334 days. 2015 to 2019, that ends in 1365 days. So 2019 is not a possibility where the 1335 days would end. However, 2016 to 2020, 10/3 2016 to 5/29 2020 is 1335. So we have a possibility in the year 2020 when God's latter rain will explode worldwide, and we will have a great time of salvation as a prelude to the coming of Christ. Also in 2021, 2017 to 2021. Now when I'm listing these years, we're going from 2017 trumpets to 2021 Pentecost. And that is 9/21/2017 to 5/17/2021. Again, 1335 days. 2022 ending? Nope, it doesn't fit. It's 1365 days. 2023, yes. 2019 to 2023 is a yes. 9/30/2019 trumpets to 5/26/2023 Pentecost is 1335. Then we have a no for 2024, ending the 1335, because it's not 1335, it's 1363. 2021 to 2025, another no. That ends with 1365 days. Now the last one I'm going to focus on is 2022 to 2026. Yes. 9/26/2022, which is trumpets, to 5/22/2026 Pentecost is 1335 days. So we have a few years to look at here. And again, we're going to have evidence that the believers are under attack, and people are going to do what they do to silence, the gospel and the message going forth that Christ is coming. Very fascinating too. I remember Mr. Camping on the open forum would say, somehow we're going to be silenced. Somehow. And he might have known about that verse that talks about the waging war of the saints. And that might have been where he was going with that. Sure enough, Family Radio at this point has removed all of Mr. Camping's teachings from Family Radio. I don't know what he's called or what his title is. He's pretty much like the CEO of Family Radio now, or I don't know what he'd be called. But he did an interview recently in past couple months. I don't know when he did it, but I listened to it this year, where he basically apologized to all the churches. There was a grand apology, and now they're playing certain ministries which are involved in basically the churches on Family Radio now. So, no more Mr. Camping and talking about the end of the world. They don't want that. They don't want nothing to do with that. It's become a business, in other words, a marketing business, or a marketing move. And, there were some things that Mr. Camping talked about, especially in the last couple of years, which he got off track a little bit on certain things. But some of the other things he was really spot on, and this 1335 days, the work he did on that was highly significant, because that laid the groundwork. And I think, as we look further into this, he's going to be justified in his teachings when we see the 1290 to 1335 days, as we've seen, apply to certain years. And we wish we would have had that information back then to highlight certain years that there's a possibility. But, we didn't have it then. At least not in my circle that I study with people, or not anybody that I've known that was talking about the coming of Christ. So the 1335 days is very, very significant to understand the coming of Christ. I wanted to mention one thing at the end here, and quote from 7 Years to a Better Tomorrow. Rome, Italy, November 16, 2018. The source is CNA. I'm not even sure what that stands for. I just copied this off the internet. Catholic leaders are open to discussing with the Italian government a court ruling saying Italy has the right to recover millions of dollars from the church from a previous tax exemption, according to DW. An exemption was established in the beginning of 2012, which allowed for non-commercial church properties to be exempt from paying the Italian municipal tax, the IMU. So basically, the lands are saying, hey, you're going to be taxed, churches. You're going to be taxed. And it's like the churches in the States have had that same thing. They've had that benefit, I guess you'd say. Okay, this is a quote from 7 Years to a Better Tomorrow. If the nations of the world come against the houses of God worldwide, they may come in various forms. I'm sorry. I'm looking at this word, animosity. And I know when I look at it and when I try to say it, it's going to be two different things. But I just said it, so hey. In the United States, the churches have enjoyed a tax-exempt status, which can create animosity from taxpayers who do not think the churches should be tax-exempt. 7 Years to a Better Tomorrow, page 313. So some of this stuff we talked about in 7 Years to Better Tomorrow, we're starting to see happen. Whether it goes worldwide or whatever, I mean, I don't know. But it seems like that's one of the things where people can, the nations can come against the houses of God. So where are we? 1335, the ever important timeline. We're getting close. We are getting close. We have certain years to look at, and praying that God reveals more and more as we look at this. I wanted to post this to make the correction, and I did. So there is one study. What was that? What was that about? I was reading it and I said, I have to post this study. And I can't remember it now. Anyway, that's going to be the next study. The mysterious, I don't know what it is study, but that's going to be the next study. Because it relates to, it's a warning that Paul gave. Now I'm starting to remember some of this. I can't remember. Anyway, I'll look it up tonight and I'll start on it. So stay tuned for that study. It's a mystery. It's a mystery study. Anyway, God bless you. Any correspondence, you can email me at 2011studies@gmail.com, 2011studies@gmail.com. And I post some studies on 2011 Studies on Facebook. I have a page there. So if you're interested in popping on there and joining, it's not a huge membership, but I kind of like it like that, where certain people just discuss some of the studies, and I post these videos too on there. So anyway, God bless you and thank you for listening. Bye.